I'm Andrew. This is Bobby. We do this podcast all the time. It is a live webinar, but also I want to let you know that if you're watching it later or whatever, if you have to duck out before it's over, you can go on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google Podcasts or on gamble.com. You can pick them up. And we've got, I think, 15 or 16 prior episodes that people have said that they will binge listen to them. They'll just play
Yeah.
the episode while they're piecing a quilt or whatever. And I would encourage you to check that out. And then also those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and on Google Podcasts help other people to find the program. And if you know somebody who would benefit from this information, tell them about it because it's not nice to keep good things to yourself. So
That's right. And we've got people from two different locations with us today. We've got Mike and Donna Caldwell with us, and we also have Jolene Shindler. Um, and we have, by the flip of the coin, we have decided to begin this program talking to Jolene. And again, Mike and Donna, while we're interviewing her, if you feel like you want to contribute something to what's being said, you can feel free to jump in anytime. But we're going to start out with Jolene. And Jolene, we're really glad to have you with us. So where is home for you? Where are you located?
So I've just recently moved to upstate New York in the Albany area. I moved here in May of 23, and by the grace of goodness, Gamma was able to take down my machine, and I transported it up here, and Gamma came back in and put it all back together within, I think, 30 days.
Oh, how far did you move from? Where did you move from?
From Florida. So it was a
Oh,
big
one extreme to the other.
Yeah, I'm over the heat. Quilting isn't fun in the heat, so I absolutely enjoy being up here and being in my studio and being able to quilt with no air conditioning and having the windows open.
Well, let's hope you're not over the cold by the time you get through a New York winter.
Oh, yeah, no. We had our first big snow in the last 2 days, so we had like 14 inches of snow, and my dog's never been in it, so she was in it and like tunneling and putting her nose in it. So that was an extreme.
that's fun. Would you say that where you're at is a rural area or suburban?
I am in a rural area. Yes, I
Rural.
am.
Okay.
Yep,
And did
yep.
you move from a rural area as well?
No, I was in Sarasota,
Okay.
Bradenton area, so pretty,
You
suburban.
just changed everything, didn't you?
I did.
Well, I think a lot of times it helps people to place, when they're thinking about how your experience is going to be similar or
Right,
dissimilar from theirs, it helps
right.
to know about, if you were in a city or a suburb or
Mhm.
where that is. So,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Jolene, how long have you been on this adventure of long arming?
Oh, wow. Of long arming, I purchased my first long arm in 2011, and it was it was my second choice of brand, but I was able to purchase the long arm and get familiar with it to the point where I knew what I wanted ultimately was the Statler. And the little machine was I started out as a long armor for myself. I took
Mhm.
classes at local quilt shops, and I finally realized, like, what happens after we make these quilt tops?
Mhm.
And not knowing, and I had piled them up, and I'm like, ladies, what do we do with them? And they're like, well, you send them to a long armor. I'm like, what is that?
Mhm.
So I had gone to a show in Tampa, a quilting show, and I got my first eyes on a Gamel, and I said, that's my ultimate dream. That's the machine that I crave. And so I decided in 2015 that I was going to delve deep into the quilting industry. I went to Houston as a long armor and as all you know, that there's just so much of the quilting industry. There's applique and sashiko and oh, it just goes on and on and on. And I thought if I was going to be a serious quilter, that I needed to really hone in and figure it out what it is that I wanted to do. Was I going to be just an edge to edge, or was I going to be freehand, rulers? I mean, even in the long arming industry, there's a huge gamut of choices.
Mm-hmm.
So I I I went to a show up in New Hampshire, and I delved into the rulers. And the instructor there, her and I became really good friends. And I see her every year. I worked with her rulers, and it's an amazing tool what you can do with the rulers and the Statler together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where my genre is.
Mm-hmm. So you had your first machine for maybe 3 or 4 years, and at that point, you were just focused on taking care of your own quilt tops. Is that what I'm
That's
gathering?
that. Yep, exactly. And learning, because there is a large learning curve. And my first machine also had software on it.
Mm-hmm.
And had I've gone Gamble first, I would have done so much better in the other software, because Statler is so much easier to use than all of the other software programs out there. It really
So you've been
is.
pretty happy with the Statler software.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then in 2015, I purchased my Statler. It's a 26-inch, and I have the hydraulics because I didn't realize this is I didn't realize that people just don't quilt for shows, and I was quilting for shows, so that was my like focus, and needing the hydraulics to really focus in on and do my finite work, and that's a huge back saver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I put a couple um, quilts into shows, and each time I entered, I went up one more notch, and I finally did the Hoffman challenge, and I ended up winning second place. That's this one right here.
Nice.
Second place overall, and then I won the Orifil thread challenge. So that was a huge confidence builder. Um, and then the women at the quilt shop heard about it, and then that's how my business really took off. Jolene, will you take this? I just want an edge to edge, and then I
Mm-hmm.
convinced them, like, you've done such beautiful work, and you're piecing. Maybe we spend an extra $100, and I can do some semi-custom and Statler work together, and they agreed. So
So I don't understand yet. Maybe you can help me to understand. You had some kind of moment or period of time there where you decided to get really serious about your long arming, and I don't know. Obviously, the purchase of a Statler machine going up to that was a part of that. But what was driving that choice? Was it just that you wanted to have a business, or how does that interplay in there? I'm missing
right.
what's behind that.
Yeah. So I was a an accountant. My husband and I at the time had a practice, and I was working full time. And I was looking at the amount of time that I was working on a tax return compared to the love I have for quilting, and it was coming out to be about the same amount per tax return per quilt. And I'm going, I want out of here. I want to be doing quilting instead. And so that's where the big
Mm,
switch was.
gotcha.
Um,
So
and
when you first started, did you begin with the purpose? You began with just the purpose of quilting for
of
yourself?
hobby, yes, just as a
Okay.
hobby. Yeah, yep.
Yep.
And yeah, so then when I realized what the gamble can do, the it's more industrial, and that's when I said, and winning that first prize, and going to some of the classes really invigorates you to be confident and not be afraid of your machine. And that was the other part of, I'm a long arm quilter and I'm an educator. So when I found out that women had these long arm machines and they weren't utilizing, they were using me to quilt, I wasn't afraid to give up my paycheck to teach them, because when you help somebody and you educate them and give them that confidence, that's a joy in itself. That's rewarding, as quilting a quilt for someone, to me.
Mhm.
And so are you now full-time quilting? Are you still doing anything else, or?
I retired from accounting last year, and so now because I've established in New York, I'm just now starting to get work from the ladies from the local quilt guild. And I did work tremendous amount. I paid off my machine, and I got to a point where I didn't want the work to become a work habit. I still wanted to have the enjoyment of quilting for others. And so now I do more of custom, semi-custom, um, and and also with the pandemic, I think all of us were kind of challenged, with quilting for others. Um,
It
but we
kind of
got over
changed the
that
whole
hump.
landscape there, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But now all those quilts that the ladies have quilted and men have quilted have piled up, and I see them coming down the turnpike.
Yeah. So this is interesting because accountants, most of us know a few accountants, and you guys are normally known for being very, very careful with money. And
Mhm.
when you decided to buy a Statler machine, you picked the most expensive machine on the market.
Well, of course.
Um, so that's something that you obviously looked at very carefully before making that decision. What what was the primary thing or the top couple things that made you make that decision for a gamble?
Because I had the more of the hobbyist long arm at home, I wanted first and foremost is customer service. I can't tell you how great it is to work with Gamel's customer service. You can reach them on the phone, you can reach them through Facebook if you have any type of trouble. And so that was the first and foremost thing, was customer service. The second is that the machine is industrial. I knew that I was going to have this machine for a long time, and the just the versatility of it, of having a Statler take over some of the busy work in place of when I'm working on another quilt that's going to be custom, because I do plan out my custom work, and I'll tell you about that. One of the features of Statler, and I've watched a lot of the videos here. One of the greatest features is to be able to bring in a picture from your phone into Creative Studios and give your customers choices of edge to edge, or what you think that you're going to be able to put down on that quilt. Because your clients can sometimes get, well, what about this and what about this? If you can just hone it down on three choices and be
Hmm.
able to show them through that Creative Studio picture, that has saved me a lot of time, a lot
Hmm.
of time. Hmm.
So when you first started doing it as a business
Hmm.
and since, can you tell us a little bit about, did you know there was enough long arm business and where to get customers and what does that picture look like then and now?
Then I was really geared into the local quilt shop. They really supported me through this endeavor of finding out what kind of long arm um, quilter I was going to be, and a lot of the piecers, they're particular, and for whatever reason, I think part of me as a quilter is that I'm very humble, and I can tell my clients, I'm not going to be able to do this. You need to find somebody else that has this certain technique that you're looking for, or I'm just very upfront and honest of how long it's going to take, their expectations and their money. And I don't know, they gravitated to all my samples that I would hang in the store, and that's basically, it was just my showing my work is what brought in my clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't need to have a certain amount every week. It wasn't like because at the time I'm, married, and I have other sources of income. Now it's a little bit different. Because I'm retired, I kind of set my own pace. And because I am doing custom or semi-custom, I'm not producing like 300 quilts a year. I'm more of maybe 175.
Mm-hmm.
And and
Spending
and I'm
more time
doing
on each one. Yeah.
spending more time. And then I also have that split personality of helping others learn their machines and educating them on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also doing some, I was certified with Quilt in a Day to teach ladies how to piece, and gentlemen, I should say. Sorry.
There's a few of them out there.
Yeah, there are lots of them. And so that also, being in the classroom with my students, they're piecing, they're trusting me. And so they also want me to finish their quilts for them. So that's how I've been able to get the right amount of quilting for me, because you as a new business owner, if someone is a quilting endeavor, you can get to a point where the quilts start to stack up, and then you can't ever catch up, because you can open up a huge can of worms once people know that you long arm.
Right.
um,
Many times finding customers is one of people's biggest concerns at the beginning. And sometimes it takes them a while to kind of make those friendships and those connections so that
yeah,
the quilts start to flow in.
yeah,
Do you have the same machine today that you started with, or have
I
you done
do.
any upgrades to it or anything like that?
No, I don't think there are upgrades. When they put my machine back together, I got the new buttons and the new feet,
Mm-hmm.
upgraded the feet, and that's about it. It's a workhorse. I love
And
it.
of course, you get the free software updates every time we come up with a software update. They're always free.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And the pattern, the iCloud pattern, I love that. I don't have to store them.
Right, right. How did you come up with the funds to purchase your machine?
So as an accountant, I know that it's wise to, well, for me, it was wise for me to finance it through your finance company. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you still do that. That was back in 2015.
We have the same partner today. Yep.
Awesome. They are fantastic too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it also, because I had that payment, it motivated me to make sure that I did at least the minimum in the beginning. I knew that, I'm not going to take any funds from anywhere else. It's going to be all from what I do.
Hmm.
And that's how,
That's
and yeah,
that's a kind of a neat mental trick, because we do sometimes need to, trick
mhm,
ourselves in certain ways to do the things that we know we need to do.
right. Yeah.
Now that you're doing this as a full-time, as your full-time career, basically,
Hmm.
how many hours would you say you put in, say, weekly, with quilting?
Weekly. Oof. Gosh, I'm down there so much.
You live down there, basically?
Yeah, it's only because it's really comfortable. Um, I would say maybe 6 to 8 hours a day. So 40 hours, maybe even if on the weekends, if so. Um, and it's not just 100%, on the machine. It's
Mm-hmm.
designing, and it's putting together my classes and um, consulting. So yeah.
Right. I get the picture. It's not work. You know,
No, it's
once
not.
once you get that cup of coffee and head into your studio, you probably disappear in there all day.
Yeah.
So you like this better than accounting?
Oh, just a little.
That's I'm kind of picking up on that vibe there.
I still do the numbers, and I'm still true to accounting, and that is a really big part of your business, that keeping records and yeah, making sure you have a good business plan, because yeah.
A lot of people don't have any knowledge of that when they go into opening a quilting business, and we have a very comprehensive program for people which they can take advantage of, called Accelerate, that has a lot of different sections, including legal and accounting and things that many times people, they don't want to know a lot about accounting, but they need to know enough about accounting that they don't make big mistakes. And of course, one
Right.
of those things is they need an accountant. So,
Yes. Yes.
um, yeah. But a lot of times the accountant also is not necessarily, they don't know anything about quilting businesses in general. You may be their only client with that
Right.
type of business, but yeah, accounting's important.
Yes,
Um,
and each state is different when it comes to the sales tax and how you register your business. So definitely, if that is in the Accelerate, then
mhm.
I highly recommend
Yeah,
utilizing that.
I've heard really good feedback about the Accelerate program.
Good.
So,
The interesting things that vary from state to state. You'll have people in one state that charge a per bobbin charge, or they'll have a charge for this or that. Well, in the next state over, because maybe labor isn't taxed, but materials
Hmm.
are, or vice versa, they'll make different choices about how they structure their rates in order to be more tax advantaged, to the client. So
Right.
there's a lot of little particulars, but it's good to have coaching to help you with that. Not only our coaches, but also an accountant. So,
Yeah.
um, when people ask you, hey, how much is it going to be for this, for this quilt that I've made for my niece, you know, do
Mhm.
you kind of do a quote on each one? How do you structure your rates?
That's an interesting question. I went back and I watched quite a few of your interviews, and Linda Tealfold, I know her really well. She's a good friend, and her and I have a lot of things in common. How we started out, and um, that first year, um, I just wanted to make sure that I had everything covered, and time, and so for that first year, I documented how big the quilts were, how many bobbins I used, what thread I used, how much I used of it, all of it, my um, the consult time, and so it's now I've got that down to a pretty good quote, and I don't do per inch. It's usually per job, which is my time and what I kind of know inside, um, what I'm making.
Hmm.
So, um, so
Do you know?
ballpark. Hmm?
Yeah, go ahead. I was just asking for that ballpark.
So ballpark, for edge to edge, like on a queen size quilt. If it's dense, then I know it's going to be around maybe $230.
Hmm.
For something that's less, maybe 210. If I go into custom, then it's probably around, or a semi-custom, let's say Statler and some hand guided, then it's going to be around 250.
Hmm.
So
and for the people that are watching, what would you say um, your average your worst year versus your best year, your income that you make on your quilts.
My worst year was during the pandemic because I had to spend so much time with the accounting with all because I used to do closely held businesses. So we had to do all the PPP and EIDL loans and then forgiveness. So 2021 was my worst year. I didn't take in any quilts. I was just too busy. My best year was 2017, and it became my best year because of winning, and I was teaching so much during the summer, and I just, for some reason, I just got into a really good rhythm, and I knew what I could make, but I didn't, like I said, I don't want to be a production. That's just not me. I probably put too much love and effort into my quilts for my customers.
Mhm.
And I foresee that coming again. Like I'll be able to work at my own pace. I don't have that payment anymore, so I've got to find something that maybe a second machine to motivate me. So, but no,
Get a hold of
it's
me after the recording, and we'll get
okay.
one ordered for you. A second machine really does give you a lot of additional flexibility
Yeah, it does.
because you don't have to walk away from the machine after you set up a section.
It really
You
does.
can just turn around to the other machine. So,
Don't tempt me.
um, we got a question from Diana, and she was asking about how do you define semi-custom? And I think there's probably a couple different definitions you might have.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll have a repetitive block in a quilt that we can do, let's just say a feathered wreath in each one of them, and that would be digitized, right? That would be
Mhm.
through Statler. And then you want more of a fancy border, then I can come through with ruler work or free motion to maybe fill in on some of those other blocks. So it's about 50, sometimes it's 50-50. Um, sometimes it's heavier on the Statler where it could be more like 80%. And then I just do the borders by hand.
Mhm.
So, and I've got that pretty good up here too.
You're not going to catch me doing a border by hand, but okay.
Oh, but the
Um,
ruler work is so fun. It goes quick. It goes quick if you really know what you're doing. So, yeah.
mhm. Uh, do you have additional services and supplies like offering people batting or wide back fabrics?
I pretty much just provide batting, and I do that through
Mm-hmm.
Hobbs batting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then for if someone, I will do show quilts for others, and I have gotten awards for that as well. And it's usually double bat, of course, the cotton and wool.
Mm-hmm. And if people want it, will you do things like piece their backing or do the binding on the quilt or any
Yes,
of
for a charge.
yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
So moving right along, what would you say for the people that are watching? What would you say is the hardest part of growing your business?
Hardest part.
What did you find difficult?
Um, I don't know about hardest part. I think it is keeping a balance, um, and knowing how much time each quilt is going to take you, so that you don't overextend yourself and promise people um, a time frame, and then all of a sudden you're caught off guard, going, I did not calculate that right. To make that phone call and tell your customer that it's going to be another 2-3 weeks, that's the
Not
hardest phone
fun.
call to make. Yeah, it's not fun. No.
Mm-hmm.
So I think is really I just to be mindful of how long some of these quilts can take. Mhm. Mm.
Are there any changes in technology that have happened since you started that have made it easier to run your business now than before? You mentioned using the photo of the customer's quilt in the
Mhm.
software. I know you wouldn't have been able to do that at the very beginning. Is there anything else that
No.
has uh
I mean, Pattern Cloud is great that we didn't have when we first started. And I think the Facebook groups, when you run into problems with your machines, if you can't, if you're on a deadline and you need an answer really quickly, I never used to utilize that, and now I find myself going there to help people. Um,
I I know tech support can help you with a lot of things, and we've got tech support open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every
right.
day of the week, including weekends. But what we can't help you with is a picture of a quilt, and I've never done a double wedding ring. What pattern should I put on this quilt?
Exactly.
But the Facebook people will help you with that.
Yes, they will, and they'll give you all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
S- I'll let you take this one.
Can I talk a little?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Now, Jolene, who would you say has been your biggest either cheerleader or support system through this journey that you've been taking?
Well, my family definitely is, they've been supportive. But their their knowledge of quilting is on a different level. They're just, yeah, mom, we love what you're doing. That's great. But I would say it's my quilting peers. I'll say it. Lisa Kaye is one of my best friends, and she taught me how to use rulers and and the a lot of my teachers that I've had classes from, Jody Robinson, Linda Tealfold, all of them have wanted me to just accelerate and give to the community of quilters, and I love them dearly for it. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
What kind of impact has the quilting money and the control of your personal schedule made in your life?
Well, if I hadn't been an accountant in the beginning, I could say that the quilting makes me get up in the morning on a regular work schedule, but not feeling like work. And the process of quilting has brought me so much joy, and the ability to share that with others um, has given me the confidence that even if I make a mistake, I'm okay with it. I'm not devastated. We just pick up the pieces and we go forward. Um, so it's caused really great regimented habits for me.
Hmm.
Yep. So
You know,
and the,
did you have something else to add to that?
no, I was going to say, and the money is secondary. Honestly, it's like, yeah, it pays the bills and it pays for my batting, and I'm rewarded, but I just really like what I do.
Um, I wanted to ask one more thing.
Sure.
There's a lot of the people that are watching are either thinking of starting their own business or maybe in the beginning stages of it. Um, can you think of anything that you wish that someone would have told you when you first started this?
Um,
Information that you wish you would have had?
it's a hard thing to say, but you can be choosy with the work that you decide to do. And what I mean, which you've probably heard it, the wonky borders, the but this was my grandmother's and it's hand pieced and it's falling apart, and you want to quilt that quilt for others, but you've got to be realistic too. Um, I tried to do I tried to do those things, and it weighed my time down a lot. Um, Not regretful, but I wouldn't do it again.
And you mentioned a lot about kind of overcommitting and overextending and
Mhm.
things like that. And that's kind of sounds like it's related to that also.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thankfully, you can renegotiate a completion date on a quilt. I know that the IRS doesn't let you move the date of April 15th, although there's extensions. I'm not sure how that works, but yes. But you can
Mhm.
renegotiate the completion date of a quilt.
Yes, you can. Or you can have a hurricane and make your extension go all the way into January.
Ah, that's a that's a neat trick. Uh,
Oh,
so so Jolene, if somebody the 10-year ago version of yourself was looking at jumping into the same path that you've taken, uh I mean it's 2024 now, right? Everything's
right.
different. Or is it? Could
Mhm.
somebody else just do it just like you did?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There is a lot of work. And it's not only the traditional piecing, it's the modern quilt movements. They're still very active in piecing and oh, absolutely. And if anybody wants to do it, just get with someone that will grab you up and show you the way because there's a lot of work to do.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And as I can see it only getting better with technology. How that is possible, I don't know. Maybe if our Statlers would have a automatic coffee pot.
Gotcha. Well, before we move on to Donna and Mike, there was one other question that somebody had put on here. How much do you charge for binding a quilt? Can you tell us about that real quick?
Everyone knows how much, if they know me personally, they know how much I dread it. Um,
One of your least favorite things to do?
it's one of my least because there's not that much creativity. Now, if they want like a piped binding, I'll get my, antlers up for that, because it's more creative. But for a queen size full, are you talking about binding just on one side with the machine or fully
Well,
binded?
they didn't
Oh,
specify.
she didn't specify, no.
Well, it's $25 for just for me to put the binding on the one side, and then $75 if they want it stitched down. And I do not do hand binding. Mm-mm.
Mhm.
No, only on my show quilts.
Well, Donna's shaking her head on that one too.
Some
See?
people love some people love to do that, but I guess to each their own, right?
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I have some of my own personal quilts in stages, and those quilts that need binding, those seem to accumulate. But and when I start doing them, like if I have a two or three to do, I'm like, why did I wait so long? This isn't that bad. But yeah,
But it's not creative.
it's not creative.
It doesn't
No,
fill that need.
no.
So we're gonna switch over to Donna and Mike, but don't forget, Jolene, that if you have a comment to add, you're
Sure.
still here with us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Oh, thank you
Um,
so much. I really appreciate being here.
mm,
Yes, thank you. It's been very enriching listening to what you had to share about your journey.
Oh, thank you.
so Donna and Mike, I don't know who wants to do the most talking. I suppose that you might split it. I don't know.
Who's the big talker in this couple?
It depends on what you're talking about.
So I know where home for you guys is. You don't live very far from the Gamble factory.
That's right.
Yep.
I thought I'd seen those guys around.
Well, uh Mike used to work at Gamble before he retired, and he still has his son works here and his daughter-in-law, and I don't know, maybe other people because it's a small town and people are related to lots of other people.
I think
I have
he's
a
got a
niece.
niece here too. Yeah.
Donna's niece
My
works
niece.
here.
Ah, well, I'll have to find out who that is. Uh, so how long have you been long arm quilting?
Well, Mike started it.
Oh,
He
Mike
bought.
started it.
He started it. Yes, he did quilting. He bought a homecraft.
It's an industrial machine called a dressmaker, dress
Okay.
machine. Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, he bought a dress machine.
Dress machine, that's what it was. Industrial machine, just called a dress industrial machine.
Yeah. Okay. This must have been a very long time ago.
Home craft, like these singers that we used to sell.
Yep.
The singers.
That was in 1999.
Okay. All right. Why on earth did you decide to get that machine and start long arming?
Well, you know, I've been with Gamels for a while, and I've been playing with the machines at shows and stuff like that. So he had one for sale, so I decided to buy it. It was one that somebody traded it in, got a Gamel machine, whatever he was selling at that time. It's probably the green machines, like the Noltings made for us.
Mhm.
Anyway, and then Donna was afraid to do it because she didn't think she could do it, and finally,
Nope, it was intimidating. And I said, nope, I'm not going to do that because I did a lot of sewing, but not with a quilting machine.
So it sounds like Mike forced this on you.
sorta.
Then he bought a DC-1.
Okay. All right. So you're moving
It
up.
was bigger than the Homecraft machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I still said, no way.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he was sewing along and he says, come on, why don't you do it? Why don't you work on it? And I did, and I loved it.
Mm.
I got a cheater cloth and made the first quilt, or
Mm-hmm.
long armed the first quilt in, I think it was 2012 when I started doing the arming.
Okay. 12 years ago. So is that the machine you're still using today?
Oh no. We bought an 18/8 needle positioner
Okay.
from Richard Walker,
Mm-hmm.
and we use that. That's her workhorse. She still has that machine.
Right.
And then we bought a Classic Plus from Mr. Gamel,
Okay.
and then we traded
Now
that
you're
in.
starting to get into machines that regular people use all the time.
So we started out in the Paleolithic and then the Jurassic, and now we're moving up into the modern times.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now I have a brand new Vision 2 22
Nice.
Aha. Nice.
with a stitch regulator and a needle positioner.
Right. Well, there's no reason to be afraid of that machine.
No, no.
So you've stayed hand guided the whole time.
Yes.
Wow.
He said I did an excellent job on that.
She does
Without-
real good work. Her stitch
without
length,
the stitch.
before she even got the stitch regulator, she had good stitches with
Mhm.
the needle positioner machine.
She was just a natural. You got to be a natural to do the non-stitch regulated stitching and get the stitch length right.
It took me a while to make. I had to make her go down there and work on that 22 Visions 2 stitch regulator. And finally, she decided to go start using it.
Oh, you had to convince her with that one too, huh?
Yes, I did. I did. Really did. She just
I'm starting to see a pattern here.
She's so used to that machine.
It still intimidated me, just like the other ones,
Oh,
because it was different.
So,
Mhm.
how did you guys find customers to grow your business?
Just word of mouth. They knew I was quilting, and we did a quilt for a play. Each block was different, and you quilted that one. And so from then on, people says, "Do you do quilting?"
That was for the DA, the veterans thing, wasn't it? No?
It was the moving wall.
Yeah, the moving wall, the veteran deal. And y'all did a quilt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
So
that
they
kind of
left.
helped get the word out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course friends would do quilts and ask me to do the long arming on them. And then we had some friends from Texas. Matter of fact, she bought one of the quilting machines that the dress, I think was the dress machine.
Mhm.
And then she started talking to people in Houston, Texas. And so they would send their quilts to me through the mail.
Wow.
That's where most of your clientele was from,
Was.
Houston, Texas. Now we're getting a lot of several local customers.
Mm-hmm.
Several of those.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get in a bind, he has to help because now we have two machines.
Ah, you got the labor to run both of them.
And then I have an in-house mechanic too.
Hmm.
So,
To figure out that you didn't clean the lint out of the bobbin case, or what? I mean,
I have no
you
problem with that.
shouldn't need an in-house mechanic.
Mm-mm.
Most of the time I tell her it's just operator error too.
So, so do either one of you have a 9 to 5 type job, or are you both retired but for the quilting?
I was cleaning houses when I started long arming. So I had six or seven places to clean, houses and businesses. And it got to the point where I had to quit one of them. I couldn't quilt or do long arm and clean other people's houses. And so I retired 2019, I think it was,
From
Mhm.
from cleaning houses.
from cleaning houses.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's all I do is long arm quilting now.
Mm-hmm.
And he retired, what, 3 years ago?
2 3 years ago.
Well, so you had to decide either to retire from cleaning houses or to retire from quilting. Why did you decide to stick with quilting?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Because I love to do quilts myself. And my business I was getting more and more clients. And so I thought it's less work quilting than it was cleaning people's houses. So,
Mm-hmm.
and my body was getting kind of worn out too.
Mm-hmm.
So, customer wise, you say it's been strictly word of mouth,
Yes.
and has that grown as time has gone on?
Oh, yes. A lot.
You have put some business cards at quilt shops and gotten some that way too.
Yeah, I have business cards, which our son designed for me. And I do have a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. So, how many hours a week would you figure you have your machines running? You got 2 machines.
Machines. I'd say from 4 to 6 hours
Mm-hmm.
a week. Are you talking about a week or
Well, I
what?
kind of figured 4 to 6 is 4 to 6 hours a day.
A day?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from 4 to 6 a day, depending on how many quilts I have.
I want to know how much work Mike does.
None,
None,
none.
unless I have a problem with the machine.
I'm retired. I go fishing.
And
Interesting.
he's getting in trouble. I think.
Interesting. Yeah,
They're
there'll be
they're gonna have a talk
after
this.
this is over. Yeah. So Donna, how do you figure your rates? Is it a per square inch deal?
Yes, it is per
Mhm.
square.
And do you do strictly edge to edge, or do you do custom, or both?
Wait a minute, I charge by the inch,
Mm-hmm.
square inch. So, yeah. Now, what was the other question?
And so mostly you do just edge to edge, free motion, or pantograph style, or
Most of
custom?
pantograph, edge to edge. I do some ruler work, some stitch in the ditch, but not very much.
She
I'm
does.
not crazy about it.
She does that meandering work. Looks like a puzzle, and like I said, she does real. That looks beautiful too. Looks great. Yeah.
I'm learning the ruler and I've done some block work, but most of it, I'd say 99% of it is pantograph, edge to edge.
Mm-hmm.
About how many quilts a year would you say you do?
Oh my.
Or per week maybe is easier. I don't know.
Well, this year I did 119 quilts
And
all year.
is that your best year?
Oh no, I did 127 one year.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So,
And what would you estimate is your um your price that you would charge for an average quilt?
For like a queen.
Yeah, well, I know there's no such thing as an average quilt.
Yes,
Like a queen.
They're all different.
yes. I had to go from individual would bring me a quilt and say, this is a queen. And I'd look at it and measure it and I go, there's no way this was a queen. So I was charging by the king, queen, like regular king and queen anyway. And I said, no, I can't do that. So I got online asking people how much they charged, and it was by the inch.
Mhm.
So, or by the square inch, yeah. Length times width and how much you wanted to charge. And so I went to that, and it was, it made me relax better
Mhm.
on charging it that way than bringing the quilts in and say, this is a queen and it was a king. So, yeah.
A little bit of misrepresentation going on there.
Right.
Well, and so in a rural area like here, what's your per inch price?
Well, I've been charging a penny, but he doesn't like it.
No, I
I
didn't.
bet he doesn't. It's he knows you could easily get a penny and a quarter or a penny and a half.
I agree.
Have you looked at the price of beef lately?
Right. Well, here in West Plains, it's a rural area, and you'd have an older lady come in and tell, and they would ask me how much I would charge for one, and they go, their mouth would just drop.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I understand she bought the fabric on sale, but still
Yeah.
she did buy all that fabric and put it together, and she would
Yeah.
like to have it finished. Um, do you sell batting or any wide back fabrics?
I have batting, yes, hobs. I
Mhm.
love hobs, and I don't usually have the backing fabric. I have them to bring the backing to.
Mhm.
And do you do other services, binding, piecing, t-shirt? You have something to do with t-shirt quilts, don't you?
Yes, I do. I've made t-shirt quilts. I've even made other quilts. Um, I do the binding if they want me to. Um, right now, I'm working on a double wedding ring. It's the first one I've ever done the binding on, or even quilted it. So this is a challenge to me right now. Um, and I'm charging extra for that too.
Mhm.
Good girl.
Now, when you do a t-shirt quilt, that's typically for a customer that is not a quilter or a sewer themselves.
Right.
What does a t-shirt quilt cost to have done?
Oh my. Yeah, it's
Okay,
around
not enough. Not enough.
300 or 400,
Not bad.
All right.
depending on the size, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or how
I
much
talk to
blocks you put
people. I hear from people all the time, quilters that are always asking for advice on how to do a t-shirt quilt, because and most of the people I've talked to hate doing them. But do you find, is that the case with you, or not so much?
Oh, I love doing the t-shirt quilts. There's a step you have to do that you normally wouldn't do with a regular quilt. You have to put a stabilizer on the back of the t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the secret.
Right.
Well, I think there's a couple secrets actually. That's where getting some training can be
Yeah,
really helpful.
you got to get them right in this.
Yeah. Don't cut it out wrong. You can't.
I had one question. I was looking at your Facebook site and the word Quillow is in there.
Yes.
What the heck does that mean?
It's a quilt that you fold up into a pillow.
It's got like a pocket sewn onto the back of it.
It's about a lap size quilt. Lap size.
I was making quillos before I made quilts. And yeah, you fold it up in a certain way and roll it into the pocket, and it looks like a pillow.
Okay.
We call
Okay.
them pillows.
Mhm.
I need to research those a little more.
So, what was the hardest part for you for growing your business?
I really didn't have any, like I said, word of mouth, and it bloomed from there. It
Mhm.
amazes me every year that I have more customers than I had the year before.
Mhm.
I've lost a few because of deaths, and they just quit quilting. So
And one of the questions I know the answer to this one, I think. Who is your biggest cheerleader? But I think it's more of a prodder, or
Right. I need to go on this fishing trip, so she needs to make some more money. I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
he
it's
doesn't get a dime
I
of
don't
the
get a
money.
dime of it.
I
it's
buy
not
new
gonna
machines with it.
it's not gonna be pretty at that house after this trip.
No.
Mm.
So
Hide.
Don, go ahead. Well, I was going to ask, Donna, what kind of impact has the quilting money and the control of your personal schedule made in your life? And I know that with cleaning houses, you may have had some control over a schedule, but only sort of.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question. Um,
Do you feel like you have more control over your schedule, over your
I
life
know I
and your
don't.
time?
I know I don't have to get up and go somewhere now. I can get up and go quilt whenever I want to. So yeah, that would be a big difference
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in scheduling.
Well, and you get to tell people when it's going to be done. So you can say
Right,
June if you want to, you know,
right, right.
they've
And I
just
can
got to,
tell them when to come and bring their quilts too.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is something that you wish someone would have told you when you first started?
I don't know. I don't know.
I would
I
have
was,
told you to get a higher feature level machine a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's
yes,
should have got a
You
Statler.
should have got that vision a long time ago.
I've never really wanted a Statler because of computers. Uh, but I did want a stitch regulator and a needle positioner. So
Mhm.
that that made a difference in my quilting.
Mhm. Yeah.
What is a needle positioner? I don't even know what that is.
Whether you can make the needle
So,
stay up or stay down.
yep.
The only
Okay,
feature they had
gotcha.
at first, just needle positioner. It was needle stopped up and down. Otherwise, when you turn the machine off, the needle coasts and it stops whenever.
I see.
That was the first machine that we had when I
Some people
started.
call it
Yeah,
the half
all we had
stitch.
was no stitch.
Yeah, okay.
No needle positioner.
Yeah, I like it when it stays down and I want to change something.
So
So
back then, getting a needle positioner was like getting a Statler for a lot of people now.
Well,
You old
Big
timers.
thing.
yeah.
So here's one of those other questions that I'm a little bit afraid what you're going to answer some of these, but what's something that you wish someone would have told you when you first started? And it's interesting because I see Mike as having prodded you quite a bit to do this just so that he could have his fishing money. But what what is something that you wish somebody would have told you when you first started?
Mm. Um, how much easier it is to complete a quilt, probably.
aw.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even think you could do it. Old Mike had to prod you into it.
That machine intimidated me. It was so big, and when you move the machine, it sewed. And I thought, okay, I got to look at the pattern and move the machine at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, that was a different time than today. I mean, these days people have already been trained on how to use it before the delivery day even comes. And then when we set it up, we don't just set it up and leave. We watch you do your first quilt. We bring the fabric and the batting and everything, and we watch the customer do it to make sure that they're on the horse and riding it before we leave.
Yeah, and nowadays when somebody gets a new machine, they get automatically they get new owner training with it, with a whole bunch of a
Yeah.
whole video course that comes with it.
Yeah, I know. I went to a few
She went with me on some deliveries where I did some
Deliveries.
training, set up and training.
and some of
Mhm.
the shows.
And then she's been to some of the shows with me and she got to play with them.
So I got my feet wet there.
Fantastic. So, if somebody wanted to try starting a hand guiding quilting business like you did, I know you started a long time ago, but do you see any reason why a lady who wanted to try doing this, or a fella, I suppose?
I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, the quilts are out there to be done, aren't they?
Yes,
So,
more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would both of you, both of our,
Panelists.
all three of our people agree
Guests.
that panelists, guests, people we're talking to, that do you see that there is still a market out there? Is there a lot of customers and that are you think are available?
yes.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
Oh yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I know we're getting ready to wrap up. I wanted to give both of you a chance if you can tell how someone can get in touch with you, whether it's your Facebook or whatever.
My email is allquiltedtogether@gmail.com. And I didn't look. I think I'm on Instagram as All Quilted Together and Facebook, I believe. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mine is the Quillow Patch.
At gmail.com.
Gmail.
That's her email.
Yeah, at gmail.com.
And then her Facebook is the Quillow Patch.
Always the thing.
It was such a pleasure to have you guys here with us tonight.
Our first one of the new year.
That's right.
Oh, true.
My hope is that that as people listen to the stories that you've told, that they can help. Maybe that it will help them to imagine where they want to take their life. I was listening to a podcast myself, and the co-host on there, she said something that I really liked. She says, "You can tell me you won't do it, but don't tell me you can't do it." And I thought, sometimes that kind of spunky attitude is really what we need to do. When we have something that we want to do, we can just stop saying, I can't do it, I can't do it. And
Absolutely.
accept either maybe we won't or maybe we could. So,
Or
uh,
try.
yeah, just
And
give it a
try. Yeah.
yep.
Yes.
What's the worst that could happen? A few quilts get finished. So,
Well, guys, we want to thank you guys so much for joining us. Jolene, it has been a pleasure listening to your
Oh,
story.
thank
And
you. I
one
know
thing
it's-
I would say to Donna is make Mike do a little more work.
Aw,
well, I think that's a good last word.
Oh, I
Thank
put
you.
him to work.
There you
there
go.
you go.
Have a nice evening.
Great.
Thank you guys.
Thanks. Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Good night.
Bye.